3-day weekend is always very nice. So welcome to American TESOL Presents Free Friday webinars. Every Friday I am here, usually my little dog as well. And if I'm at a conference or traveling, then I try to get some of my friends involved as well. So we've been doing this for the last 2 or 3 years. We have tons of recordings that are free to access. They're 30 minutes, so bring a friend. You can always play this for your staff, and you get a certificate from American TESOL, so that's really wonderful. We have all kinds of topics. They're related to language teaching, but they can help all kinds of teachers because we talk about teaching science, math, English, everything. So that's really wonderful. Now Peggy is in the audience, which is always great to have Peggy, and Laszlo and Barbara. But Peggy was just saying that it's a very cute photo, and so I should say I always use Flickr for my photos, and you can find, there's actually a Flickr iPad app, so you could find that. And I bookmark them on Digo, but if you look at on the bottom, you can find the URLs as well. So if you ever want to know where I get these awesome photos, and they're all Creative Commons, so they are, you can use them in presentations as long as you document. So what I like about using iPads, and you'll see, I got my iPad mini, which I love. And then I have also the regular iPad, and everybody, if you look at my iPad, I literally have like 500 apps because I'm always finding new free apps that I absolutely adore. So if you want to keep up with them, I'm going to show you where my bookmarks are because you can just copy my bookmarks. You don't even, or follow them. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Peggy. The Digo ones because, but I have some other ones as well where I bookmark specific apps to do different things. And you can find those in my Symbaloo. You can find them on Pinterest. I have a Pinterest account. I'll show you those later in the webinar. But the thing I want you to think about when you're using any kind of technology, I know a lot of times we get really frustrated and we get really scared because it's such a transition, but really you have the knowledge, you've been through so many different technology changes, and teachers, that's one of the things they're really good at. We're great at being flexible and adapting. And so when you see an iPad, it's not try to think of all the potential you can get out of it, and there's tons of potential. And I know sometimes I just finished actually training teachers in Chicago, so I was showing all of them how to kind of get through the iPad and what kind of activities are good. And the good thing about my situation in Chicago that I was training was the first group of teachers I was training had one-to-one, so everybody had an iPad. But then there was where the second group I trained, they only have one iPad for the whole class. So is it possible? Yes, I'm going to show you your different options. So whether, and in my situation, I usually have been where working with my students, when I work with students, I've only used my iPad or with a group of students, and it was still very, very effective. One of the great things about the iPad is it's so mobile, okay? So you can carry it around, you can do great things. But I actually presented this, I created a workshop and organized it with these two brilliant people. And so I'm going to start off with some of their tips because one of the things about iPads, when you have to set them up, that can be really difficult. Now, a lot of the ideas and everything you can find in my book, Learning to Go, which has a sale right now, back to school sale. And so you'll find a lot of assessment rubrics, lesson plans. You can find it also in the Kindle. You can find a PDF version. It gives you tons of apps. It gives you apps for if you're working with video, audio recording, how to enhance images. It has apps for everything. So you'll find that. when you're working with iPads, just focus on the learning. After you play with it, and that's what I always tell teachers, even parents. When I work with parents and I want to introduce them to technology, I'll hold a workshop. And when I hold workshops, they're interactive. The teachers, excuse me, actually use the device. So play with the iPad. That's the best way you're going to learn about it. And if you can play with it with a child or the student, excuse me, you're going to work with, even better, because kids, they're brilliant with the iPad. You'll have to excuse me for just a sec. My allergies are just terrible today. And so it's really important that that's what we do, is we focus and just let it see that any type of good lessons we have. So what do I mean by that? Well, these are kind of things that I put into the different things that I do. I try to make it relate to the real world. So in other words, and whatever I teach, I want it to impact them now. So they need to be able to know that whatever they're learning, they can apply it right now in their life. Like, that's very important for me. I've taught plenty of different subjects, and I think that's so important. Play, collaboration, community, you can do all of these. One of the things that I think is really important, whatever technology you're doing, or even blended learning, and even with an iPad, is to create a virtual learning environment. Now, these are some of the ones that are mobile friendly, that you can put in your iPad. The best one, I think, were one of the favorites of teachers, and they just had a free online conference, is Edmodo. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some things about Edmodo, but you can do anything. You can have kid blog, and you can have blog through there. You can have edu blogs. You can have, now they have a new Google LMS. Now, I don't know how it works with an iPad yet, so that's why I didn't put that, but I know Google Communities you can access as well. When you have Edmodo, the great thing about Edmodo is accessible everywhere. It's accessible on the web, it's accessible in your browser, it's accessible on your Android device. I mean, they make it but there's so many great things you can do with Edmodo. You can give digital badges, you can grade, you can post homework assignments, and the students tend to really go for it because it looks like a social network. So it creates collaboration, a community. They get to learn from each other, and you can make it very active. A lot of teachers really love Edmodo, and it integrates many different types of apps within it as well. And so I'm going to share with you, because I think one of the other ways that you can use your iPad is to have collaborative bookmarking. I think that's really important. And the reason why I say all of this is because you have to remember, when you're working with your iPad, when you're working with your device, your students, you need quick ways to get places. And if you have where everything's in one bookmarking system, like Pinterest, or I think EduClipper is the best one if you have an iPad. It's really wonderful. The app is amazing, and it's free. So you would want to. This is what EduClipper looks like. You can also do video, audio. You can give students assignments. You can give them digital badges. So you could actually make this your online learning place. But the great thing about EduClipper, if you were to post assignments from the iPad, let's say you want them to do a math assignment, and then you want to post an explanation. Let's say you want to do a YouTube video that shows the math in action. You could do all of that with EduClipper. You just create the board, and then you give it to them as an assignment. They actually have a classroom, and then they turn it into you on EduClipper, and then you go and you can you can give them a digital badge, you can give them a grade. There's so many things you can do. So it's all within one platform. It's free, and all of these, EduClipper is like the Pinterest of education. So you don't have to go and necessarily copy and paste. You can go and you can just bookmark the resource. And so it makes it very, very easy for you to create assignments, also the places you want your students to go to research or get more information. And you can add images and just so many things. So EduClipper is really one of those musts, I think, for iPad. So how do you set this up? And that's one of the things when I've been through iPad training that it's a lot of times people intend to cover that, and that's so important. I actually learned this from Dan Callahan. So there's different types of setting up, and Lynn Hur, the one at the beginning. So if you go to these two and you look at their resources, you're really going to find a lot of useful information. So with sometimes you get where you have a cart, and the cart will actually charge your iPad. And that's one of the great situations to be in if you can't have one-to-one. So if you can have a cart and it rolls and it protects your iPad and it charges overnight, then Dan Callahan walks you through every step of the process. And what I really learned from Dan Callahan, so you could do this bit.ly address there and you would go right into this resource. But the great thing is that from Dan Callahan, I learned about this really incredible resource. And this resource is called the Apple Configurator. So a lot of times you need to get all these teachers or all the iPads together, and you need to get the iPad apps on them. You need to set up all these accounts, and it's very stressful. When I was just at the school, they were telling me how difficult it was. Well, the great thing is that you have so many people who share resources, and Dan actually shared this free app called the Apple Configurator. So it kind of walks you through the process. It makes it easy. It says, makes it easy for anyone to mass configure and deploy iPhone, iPod tech. So that's what you want to go. The next one is classroom management. How are you going to manage it? You barely know how to use the iPad yourself. Let's say you just got one and you played a little, but you're still struggling. That's okay. The reason I say that's okay is because there's this awesome, there's a lot of different resources out there that will actually show you how to do it. And I'm going to show you the ones that I think that are really good. Some that blow my mind. I mean, and I teach this to the teachers that I train. These are the resources I share. These are the people that I think are really awesome. Now, I didn't get to list all of them, but when I post up the slides, I will. So I'm going to mention some names you might not see on here, but they'll definitely be in the slide share after. So one of the first people, and I'm going to go ahead and put his blog over here because he's really great. And he gives you 10 tips, okay? So he's going to give you 10 tips on how to work with your iPad. And actually, let me get you the real link to that because it's such a great resource.